I'm very pleased to introduce today's second demo with Ascendient Learning, Critical Reskilling AI Workforce Transformation. We have Brian Carlson, Alliances and Strategic Accounts at Ascendient Learning, here to guide us through the second demo. So I'm going to pass it over to you, Brian.
Wonderful, thank you. I will grab the screen share here and just making sure I've got the right one.
Looks great.
Wonderful. Well, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining the session. As mentioned, my name is Brian Carlson. I've got 23 years in corporate training and education. Been working in a lot of different roles, but my favorite by far is working directly with customers. Over these 20 plus years, I've gained a pretty good understanding of technology. And I really, my favorite part about it is I love helping customers, especially those that are oftentimes not technical, understand the tech trends and what that means for their organization and help them make sense of it all and build programs that get them to where they need to be. So we are an IT skills organization focused on instructor-led, both virtual and in-person training. And then today I'm going to talk a bit about what we're doing with AI, what we're seeing customers ask for in AI, and all those kinds of topics. So we'll focus on 4 case studies I've got at the end. That's where I will spend the majority of the time, and then love to hear your questions and all that at the end. And then I'll have my email address and information there. I'd love to hear from you after the session as well. There's typically always some questions that follow up. So with that, we will get started. So as everybody is aware, AI is here. It's different than all the other new technologies that have come out in the past few decades in that it immediately affects every job role. It's not like a lot of other ones that were more focused on IT only job roles. This one is everything from end users to executives into the IT space. And so that's one of the things that makes it so daunting. The first big problem is there's a scarcity of talent out there. It's really tough to go out and find the exact skill set that you need. When you can find that exact skill set, the costs are a lot higher. The ramp up time, it takes time. And there's always that uncertainty that whoever you bring in is going to fit. Reskilling your current employees is the way that we've found to be the best route to do this. In my prior slide, I noted that the cost to hire is about 30 to 60% of the employee's annual salary. When you look at reskilling existing employees, it's much lower at around 4 to 6%. And that obviously depends on the program that we put together. It's also a lot faster to ramp. You've got these employees already on board. They understand your business, your data, your customers, your culture. You have all those kinds of things. And so it's a lot quicker to skill them with those new skills and to get them up to speed and moving a lot faster. It helps you retain some of that talent that you've had for sometimes decades that you do not want to lose. And lastly, it helps you to minimize some of that risk that you get when you try to go out and hire. That's where our expertise comes in. We've been doing this. We're the combination of 3 other training companies into one. It's now Ascendient Learning. Each of those training companies had around over 20 years experience. And so we've brought all that together, all the systems, the processes, the content, all the know-how, all those things have come together. We've been able to pick best of breed and put together programs for customers, potentially such as yourselves, that are highly customized. We always start with the strategy. Every customer has something different that they're trying to achieve. Sometimes it's hiring, sometimes it's upskilling, sometimes it's technology alignment. Across the board, there's all different reasons why that customers need to upskill their workforce. And so that's where we always start, is understanding where that strategy is, the why behind the initiative. And then we start to build the program from there. Everything we do, everything that walks out the door is a custom program. We have our own proprietary content that we've developed, and we also have a large network of vendors that we use their content. And so we're able to put that content together, tailor and customize it. We focus on customer use cases. The data, we simulate data that the customer would see. We never use the customer's actual data. We'll just simulate it. We'll use their tech stack to make sure that the tools align. And then we build the classes in the program so that when students walk out, it's often thought of as almost an on-the-job training. because we do make it so similar to what's happening back at work in their environment. And we also use a tremendous amount of hands-on labs. There's 3 different ways we do labs. We have labs in the class, we have individual projects, and we have group projects. And we'll talk a little bit more about those in some of the case studies I go through. Everything we do is meant to be scalable. When we develop these programs, we have a set process that we go through. We want to make sure that we cover every job role, all the skill levels, all the different technologies and tools that will come into play as we put those together. And then we also understand that it's not just the students who we need to interact with. We all have stakeholders as well. They're managing big budgets, big projects, big expectations. And so we have a suite of tools that we've developed that we make available to the stakeholders as well. All this is delivered by an experienced team. I mentioned the 3 companies coming together. We have a tremendously experienced team that has been delivering these programs, from instructors to project managers to content developers, all the way through. We have that entire team available from the beginning all the way through the program. And so while the program's running, there's a second component to what the students see and what the stakeholders see. And that helps to make sure that they're able to report back, they're able to see the results, all those kinds of things that are important to stakeholders as they work through the program. We've been doing this for upwards of 20 years now. And so we've developed some metrics that we use to help measure the success of these programs. And there's all different metrics and methodologies that we can use. It really depends on what the customer wants to do and how involved they want to get. But on average, the learner experiences are around 4.7 out of on a scale of 5. When we do pre and post assessments, the average is around 62% on the pre-assessment, all the way up to 92% on the post-assessment. As I mentioned before, everything we do is custom. And so we always try to use customer use cases and real life examples. And so that helps when students walk out of the classroom and onto the job. They've seen examples that are relevant and similar to what they're actually going to experience in the real world. And one of the use cases that I'll go through, that's actually how we built the 8-week program that we have a diagram before or in the future slide. And obviously the immediate ROI when they can walk out of the classroom onto the job and be effective. So the first use case that we'll talk about here is for a large consulting company. They had an existing workforce of consultants who go to end clients in major companies and help them implement the latest technologies. And so this particular use case, we worked with some of their experienced consultants to help bring them in to bring advanced data science skills into that group. It's a reskilling program. And here's the schematic, here's the layout for what we built. This particular one was 6 weeks long. One of the things that you'll notice is that we have projects in here a few times. And this is one of the big selling points and what makes our program so effective. Is in the first couple of weeks, we have our standard off-the-shelf content that we've customized and tailored for this particular client. But then we have a 2-day project to help recap everything they did in the first just over 2 weeks. That's done individually in this case. And then we've got another week of classroom learning that includes hands-on labs. So they're 50-50 doing labs the whole time. We come to our second individual project. And that obviously is done by individual students. Some customers want to do it, those group projects, but this particular one wanted individual projects. Another week of learning, and then we have a capstone project. This was done as a group. We do it as a group for a few reasons, and one of the main reasons is it's a great way to start to foster collaboration and communication between the teams. And so group projects at the end, and again, in the form of a capstone, are one of the best ways we have to reinforce that. And it essentially becomes a third set of hands-on exercises that really help to make sure those concepts and skills stick coming through the training. The next program that we have was for a large HR management company. Their strategic initiative here was actually talent acquisition. They were bringing in over 100 new hires, and they were able to find about 50 to 60% of the skills that they needed, but they just couldn't find those additional skills at the price that they needed them for. And so they brought us in to build a program. So when these new hires that were early career folks came in, they were able to about immediately go into the program and start to work through several use cases they gave us, data examples. They worked as teams. And so, that strategy was talent acquisition, to complement skills they could readily find in the market with skills that they couldn't. And so they decided to train them. Here's the schematic for that one. It was an 8-week program. And this one actually had 2 weeks in person where the instructors flew into the local sites and the students came in for week 5 and week 8 to have that in-person experience. This one also is interesting because we leveraged in week 3 some content that we have from one of our partners called Databricks. We've got over 30 vendors that we work with, like AWS, IBM, VMware, where we have access to their content. And so one of the ways that we partner with them is to wrap our content around that vendor authorized content. And in this case, we actually use some content from Databricks to build this particular program. You can also see at the end of each week, except the first and the fifth, there's some form of assessment. We use these, one, to make sure students are keeping up, make sure the class is on track. Do we need to make adjustments at the class level? Do any individual students need remediation? But we also use it to measure engagement, right? When they know they've got an assessment coming up at the end of every week, it really helps us to keep them engaged, especially in a virtual environment. This one also included several projects, and it was actually a week 9 for this one, which was a group capstone. It just wouldn't quite fit on the slide, but there was a group 9 where we did a capstone with groups where they were working in agile teams and building out that last final project. This one also is an example on week 2 where we used content from AWS, in addition to the Databricks content. The third one is a federal agency that had a little over 100 individuals. And the strategy that they were trying to accomplish, what they were trying to accomplish with their strategy was to align the teams and to reinforce best practices on how they use and manage their data across the organization, across the different agencies. And so this program was built, once again, using use cases from the customer, tools from the customer, and then simulated data based on what the customer is actually doing as part of their day-to-day tasks. And so we built that one based on those items. But what's different about this one than the first 2 that you saw is that this one this customer needed a much more flexible delivery schedule. They didn't have time for, and they didn't need a multi-week program. Instead, what we did was took a series of classes, built both for end users, for report writers, and also some administrators behind the scenes. And we delivered them same classes across all the agencies. We actually had different agencies join in every class. We ran the program for over 6 months, or right around 6 months, and we spread it out to minimize the impact to the day-to-day. We also broke a lot of the classes from 1 day into 2 half days so that students didn't have to be away from the office for the entire day. And so this is an example of how we were able to build a very flexible schedule and deliver over a longer period of time to reduce the impact on day-to-day while still delivering the skills that they needed to accomplish the 2 objectives that they set out to accomplish with this particular program. And the last use case is a large bank. And apologies, the title of the slide got messed up somehow. This is a large top 5 North American bank. And what they were trying to accomplish was a continual life cycle of a refresh catalog of courses that was available. And what was important to them is that the classes were targeted towards their technology shift. A few years ago, they were making a huge platform tech shift, and they wanted to be sure that the tools were aligned with that new shift, the job roles that they would have to reskill, and also using, to the extent as necessary, data and use cases from their actual business. And so in this one, we built a catalog of 3 to 5 day classes that we made available on an internal schedule for students from all the different groups. There were about 5,000 IT employees in this particular organization to attend those classes. And we covered everything from cloud, DevOps, automation, programming languages. but we've been doing data science, machine learning, and AI for quite a while. And so this one is notable and different because it was a catalog of 3 to 5 day classes that folks could jump into and out of. Some of the classes do build on each other. And so when you want to get up to the AI engineering class, that's 4 to 5 classes deep, right? And so we have the full path available for students to take throughout the year. So as they're nominated by the managers, they can work their way through. And there's a comprehensive learning path for them. It aligns with their strategy, and it builds from there. And so this is one where a second one where it wasn't multi-week program. It was, like I said, a catalog of 3 to 5 day classes. So lots of questions I know come up. It's a little difficult sometimes to understand exactly how it could work for you. And so we want to invite you to reach out and let's talk. There's a lot of options that are out there. There's other case studies we can share with you. Ultimately, we'd love to build you an example of what might work for your organization. And if nothing else, it's a good reference point to foster your internal discussions. So if any of these things come to mind, please feel free to reach out. My email address is here. You can also put your questions in the chat. We are finishing with plenty of time to take questions and give answers. And so I will flip over to the question slide. Again, my email address is here. And actually, I'll jump back to this one. And we'll leave it here and open it up for questions. And Alexandra, I'm not able to see the chat.
Hi. We don't have any questions in the chat yet. Yep. So maybe we can use the time you can tell us about for some of the existing clients that you're working with, what does that process look like? What has it looked like in the past for um, getting started? I think for some folks, maybe they know that they're interested, but maybe don't know what they want to invest in or what program is going to be the right fit. What does that kind of discovery process look like with your team?
Sure. So it always starts with an initial phone call. And we work with a ton of other customers that are going through the same things as you're probably going through. And so the best way to start is just with an initial phone call. Let's do 30 minutes and just understand a little bit more about your organization, what your objectives are, what your current state is. And then if nothing else, we could just give you some thoughts and some ideas that you can go back and discuss. And so that's the best way to get started, is just that quick call. And then from there, we can make some recommendations and you ask questions that you can go back and do some investigating and come back with, and no commitment. And if nothing else, we're happy to help you along on your journey to figuring out how to get your workforce trained and ready for AI.
And you'd mentioned, everyone in the organization is going to be impacted by AI. Can you specify a bit what kind of AI course offerings you all have available?
Sure. So traditionally, we are focused on IT. So you think about your database administrators, your system administrators, programmers, those types of job roles. Those ones are having a massive effect. Some of those roles are completely changing. Some of them are changing some, and some of them are changing just a little bit. But all of them are going to see a change, both in the tools that they use to get their job done, as well as what they're actually doing on the job. And so that's an audience that, again, we specialize in. That's going to see a massive shift. But we also work all the way up through, analysts who are using some of the new Power BI or some of the new analysis tools, and end users. Everybody's heard about ChatGPT. How do you interact with AI? How do you make the most of it? How do you work it into your day to day? How do you understand it? Even like that 30-minute end user type training. And so the trainings we use focus both on the tools that every job role is going to see, but also on the day-to-day questions around how you're actually going to do your job, especially around the more technical folks.
Okay. And Erica asked, can you talk about how you were working with organizations to use or host technical systems where participants can practice applying the skills like sandbox environments or working with firewalls, recommended IT solutions, login issues, etc.
For sure, there's a lot there. So everything that we do is instructor-led hands-on. And so we do host our own remote labs. We've got decades of experience working with customers who have pesky firewalls and restrictions. And so if we can work within those constraints, we've seen it before. Sometimes you do have to go off-site or get off the VPN to get there. And so we do host our own labs. We can also build the labs and make them available to be hosted internally on the customer side. That's obviously a bigger lift because you have to have your own environment and all that, but some customers have that and like that. And so that's two of the ways that we support systems integration with our hands-on exercises. We also build all the labs to be tailored, like we talked about before. And so making those labs available in a sandbox environment is one of the ways we do it. We often supplement it with office hours or short sessions, so like a half day or once a month kind of thing, just to keep the learners engaged, ask questions, those kinds of things. There's a lot of different ways we can do it. It really depends on what you're trying to achieve. Did that answer your question, Erica?
Cool. Julianne said, I would love to hear more about your skills assessments.
Sure. So we do it in a variety of ways. One of the best ways that we do it is where we typically start is by interviewing folks at the manager level to try to understand what skills they need, where they're trying to get to, and make sure that the skills that the managers have their eye on align with where the business needs to go. And then from there, we can do any level of manager assessments. We can put together assessments that are based on the specific tool stack that the company is using, and then we can make those available in survey format. We can make them, simply multiple choice, or we can make them so that your answers dictate what the next question is going to be. So we can get to any level that you're looking for. But surveys and manager assessment is typically the way that we go.
And Trent asked about you had mentioned that you work with IT folks, technology. Do you work with would your programs or products apply to call centers or field sales agents?
Potentially. It depends on what they're trying to do. So typically for call center, they're going to need to learn some of the new AI tools and how to interact with them. So we certainly could put together trainings on something like prompt engineering or understanding different aspects of AI. For field sales, we build programs for some of the big OEMs for field sellers. Typically in those types of programs, they're going to want to understand the AI landscape, the technology, how their particular product fits into AI. And so we build those as well.
And is AI build, so I'm reading Matthew's question. So you do offer AI build as well as AI for end users. So is AI builds to help create programs? Is that right?
I'm not sure what you mean by AI build.
Okay. Okay, so maybe I'm misreading that. Um, Let me jump to Dawn's question. How does your company use AI in creating programs?
How do we use AI in creating programs? We use it during the course of the development process. Obviously, we're going to use those same tools to help speed it along. It helps save you guys costs. It helps save customers costs. I've been making it a little more quicker and efficient as we build the content. It helps us to research things. We obviously use AI in our labs. So when a student or a class is going in to learn how to build AI systems or do AI engineering, obviously there's tools and methodologies and all those things as part of the class there.
You asked a similar question. Oh, okay. Did that answer your question, Murat? Okay. Train engineers to build custom AI. Sorry, I know you can't read the chat, Brian, so I'm trying to grab
Me.
these. I think we had sort of two variations from Murat and Matthew. My apologies, Murat, if I'm pronouncing your
Here
name.
we go. I stopped sharing, Alexandria, so I can see the chat now. So I'm
Okay.
reading. Yes. So Matthew, yes, that's our bread and butter is building working with customers so they can build their own AI models or build apps with their own data or all that. So we've been building this content for quite a while. We actually recently hired a PhD in machine learning to come and help us take our content to the next level. So we work with a lot of big companies who are doing things like AI engineering. Agentic AI is obviously really big right now. And so, Matthew, I think it's definitely worth the conversation to make sure we get all of your questions answered fully. Murat, let me jump up to your question. Murat, did I answer your question?
He had asked about
Ah,
demos of concrete examples of Gen AI use cases or tools that you're using in certain phases of training programs. And he said,
yes.
yeah.
But I'm not technical enough to get too deep into probably the answer you're looking for. But let's set a call and I'll bring on one of our AI experts and let's talk through and figure out what you're looking for. And we'd be happy to share with you.
I don't see any new questions, but if I missed you, show yourself. I'm sorry I missed any. Well, let me turn it back to you, Brian, before we wrap up for this demo.
Great. But everybody, if you need I hope that you grab my information if you need it. If not, I'd be happy to put it in the chat and I'll actually type it in the chat right now. Uh, we work with companies large and small, and so like Alexandria asked, the best way to get started is with a quick phone call. No strings attached. Be happy to help you out if nothing else. But maybe there's a way that we can come in and do some work for you and help you get where you're trying to go this year. So thank you all for your time. Thank you for attending, and I hope to hear from you.
Great. Thank you so much, Brian. A huge thank you to Ascendient Learning for being part of Demo Day.